Welcome to another edition of Radio Free USA, the unofficially official voice of the resistance. I'm your host this week. This is Rahul. I'm hosting this week because our good friend and co-host, Tariq, he's actually in the process of being deported from yet another country. So he's actually reporting live from the airport. He's currently seeking asylum in Australia. Tariq, how are you holding up?
I'm doing all right here. I'm here in the deportation chamber, otherwise known as the business class lounge of the Heathrow Terminal 3 airport. And the conditions are pretty gruesome here. They don't even have free champagne. It's really not that good. But I would say that
I hear Heathrow is it's quite a sanctuary airport,
yeah,
right?
It's kind of like LaGuardia there. You know, it's as Biden said. You know, it's a third world status here. But we're holding down. Well, hopefully we'll be able to record the pod next week from my new Australia, and then I might get deported the next week. But you never know.
Yeah, it's always a thrill with you, dude. And we also have, as always, our friend Tim, who maybe one of these days he'll be able to host one of the podcasts, but Tark and I will have to discuss that. Maybe we'll let him.
That'd be real generous of you guys. Tarek, I just want to remind you, we need you to do some investigative reporting while you're in Australia to find out what the Aussies think of Trump complimenting their healthcare.
Yeah, that's part of the reason why I'm going there as well. I'm going to, because ever since Trump said they have better healthcare than we do, I just really want to see for myself. I might punch a kangaroo, end up, with a broken arm, and you never know what might happen there. So,
a dingo might eat your baby.
But I think that's covered by their healthcare. That's covered by their healthcare.
Babies getting eaten by dingoes is definitely covered by Australia Care, but. Yeah, that might be a pre-existing condition in Trumpcare.
Yeah, exactly. And we're going to get to healthcare in a moment, but we actually have some breaking international news in case you happen to be listening live, which is probably impossible. You'll be listening to this several days from now. But it looks like in the French election, which was looking like the next sign of the apocalypse, that the fascists were going to take over everything, the centrist Macron, if that's how you pronounce it, looks like he won. And by a lot, actually. The numbers I saw said 65-35. So, I think I was in such a despondent mood over the course of the year with Trump and Brexit that I kind of just assumed, France is fucked too. But, hey, they hung on. It looks like the centrist one. And now the French have another reason to look down on the Americans. What do you guys think?
I'm pretty excited. I mean, that's obviously a great outcome. I was a bit worried because of the Russian hack that happened, I guess just like 2 days ago. They released a bunch of emails from the Macron campaign. I guess some of them were real, some of them were fake. But I didn't hear of anything particularly egregious coming out of those emails. So I guess maybe there wasn't anything that bad in the emails, and it just didn't affect them. Was that your understanding, guys? Yeah,
I mean, what's interesting is it's probably that there just wasn't enough time to analyze them, and then there also was under French election laws there was a bit of a blackout that happens, I think, within 48 hours of the actual election. I think one of the things for me, as being someone who lives in the EU right now, it was a bit scary seeing that the French were considering electing Marine Le Pen. However, I personally was a bit skeptical that was ever a reality. I think there was a lot of media hype there. The Front National, the far right political party founded by Marie Le Pen's father, Jean-Marie Le Pen, in the 70s. Well, in the first round of the elections, because the vote is split, and they usually have a hardcore base of like 20% of the French public. Usually, a lot of people in the north, people who are like effectively the Rust Belt of France, to use that analogy. But it was really good to see that in the era of Trump and then Brexit, that there was quite a landslide victory for the centrist Macron. I think the last bit I'll add is the Russian hackers. Total amateur hour here, guys. I know you have a little bit to add on that, but I think the real 1-2 punch that they forgot here you have the Russian hackers go in. That's the jab. And then James Comey comes in with a knockout blow a couple days before the election. I think that's what was really missing here.
Yeah, I guess there's Jacques Comey or whoever is the French equivalent didn't come through in the clutch for Le Pen. But yeah, Tarek, you touched upon both you guys touched upon the Russian hacking, and one thing that we're going to change a little bit in our format is you all know and love our loyal listeners our segment Clown of the Week, but instead of tacking it on at the end, I think we're going to discuss each of the clowns as we go through the topics that they address. So I actually want to formally nominate these Russian hackers as my clown of the week, or clowns of the week, perhaps. And the reason why is twofold. So number one, they attempted to influence the election, and it looked like it was totally unsuccessful. It was a 30-point win. Like, it wasn't even in the cards. So, slow clap, nice try, Russians. But also, someone on I noticed on Twitter there was a funny comment where when you analyze some of the data that's in the email leaks, it becomes apparent that whoever accessed this information and released it was using a version of Microsoft Excel that was Russian, and you can see like in the code in the background that things are written in Russian, so they couldn't even clean up their tracks. The fingerprints of the Russians are all over it. Tim, I don't know if you have any thoughts as our resident technology expert, but my thought is just, hey, they messed up. They didn't fix the election in their favor, and their fingerprints are all over this bullshit. Yeah,
I totally agree. I mean, from the outside, it looks like total amateur hour, but I do want to bring up a possible conspiracy theory here.
Which,
everybody loves a good conspiracy theory. Which is, what if somebody was framing the Russians? Somebody could have intentionally put these fingerprints in there to frame the Russians. So it's not 100% sure that it was the Russian, or it's not 100% bulletproof evidence that it was the Russians, but certainly points in their direction.
Yeah, I think innocent until proven guilty applies here. So, Tim, I like that conspiracy theory mindset that applied to this scenario. But I think, I think many comedians actually made the point this week that what is the hack gonna bring to light that is going to sink Macron when he married his elementary school teacher, right? So,
I'm so glad you brought that up, Tarek. I was dying to talk about that.
Like your boy Macron, okay? Like, he's living the dream here. Married his child. What was she? His elementary school teacher or middle school? I don't know.
I don't remember. I don't think elementary school. That seems really weird.
I think he was 13.
High school?
13.
Oh, middle school.
He hit puberty, so that's legit. That's more legit.
Yeah, that was shocking. Well, what's weird is I think he only married her once she was in her 60s. He got married when he was 29 or something like that. So she was in her 60s at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah, get that.
But that's exactly it. I mean, French people are so chill. They don't care about this. If this was in America, this guy wouldn't have made it out of the primaries. He wouldn't have even had the wherewithal to try to even run for office. Given the culture that we have, the conservative culture we have here in the United States. I'm not saying that there's nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying that the French people don't think there's anything wrong with that, and the hacks surely can't sink him if that didn't sink him. So that's my opinion on this.
And yeah, I think before we move on to our next subject, we know Tarek is he's about to meet with some immigration officials. Yeah, in addition to the hacks, Macron was victim to another thing that happened in the Trump Clinton election, which was the far right 4chan / Reddit communities kind of teamed up to they would do things like Google bomb certain articles in order to make them rise in Google search ratings, and they were promoting totally fake news about Macron. So there was some rumor that turned out to be totally debunked, which was so Macron's married to this older woman, his former teacher, and there was like a rumor that he was having an affair with her daughter or something, and it turned out that wasn't true. I'm pretty sure, but it was kind of like the far right, like 4chan Reddit people, similar to like Pizzagate or something, were promoting like a bogus theory, and there was something about like also a rumor that was being promoted about like secret bank accounts in the Cayman Islands that he had that were totally debunked, but they got way more media attention because like these kind of internet trolls, the Pepe the Frog type people, were purposely trying to make it rise in the ranks of kind of search ratings and stuff, which was troubling, but luckily it looks like it didn't work in the end.
Wow. I just want to issue a quick correction. Macron was 15 when he met his wife.
Okay, even
all right.
Yeah, that's okay. That's enough.
Not that weird. I mean, he's through puberty at that point.
Yeah, exactly. That was basically like first and goal right there. So he was almost there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's like every angsty high school boy's dream, just like the hot teacher, and then he nailed it. So great.
The thing is, like, if genders were reversed here, like, would we be saying the same thing? Like an older guy.
Of course not. Yeah.
Right.
I don't think Mike.
So
Mike
maybe this is inappropriate. Maybe we're being maybe we're not being PC enough.
Yeah. No, we're not afraid to go there.
I don't think Mike Pence would have even had dinner with his former teacher there, but that's another subject. So.
Well, speaking of Mike Pence and bringing things back to the U.S., we had some troubling developments this week, which was zombie Trumpcare, which we were so lovingly making fun of last week. It passed the House by being more cruel than the original Trumpcare about a month earlier. So that's not good. There was basically everything about this feels not good. There was no full bill circulating for congressmen to read. The CBO hadn't given its assessment of the bill. Its odds are it's going to be super unpopular, but because of gerrymandering and the way Congress is structured, the Republicans don't face that much kind of backlash for it, unless we can take back the House for the Democrats in 2018. But it's still a little troubling, and we'll see what happens in the Senate. At the very minimum, the bill will get changed quite a bit, but hopefully it can be torpedoed there somehow. Yeah, I don't know. What do you guys think? How have you been feeling this week?
I think that so first of all, I just want to be fair and balanced here. In defense of Congress for not reading the bill, most Congress people cannot read. So let's just put this one out there. Unless there was a podcast spelling out all the ways that this bill was going to screw the American people 7 ways from Sunday, this had no shot of being read anyway. So that's my 2 cents on this.
That's a good point. I want to bring up a particular part of the bill which we touched on last week, which is the fact that all of these changes, the amendments to the bill that came in this round, the members of the House made it so they are exempt from them. I'm sure you guys heard
Classic.
that, but it's just like, what are you thinking? Like, don't you realize that when people hear that, they're going to realize that that you're screwing us all over? Like, why? If these rules are good enough for us, why aren't they good enough for you?
Yeah, the thing that related to that really kind of upsets me in the long term is what are they going to be able to pull off that people? To what extent can they pull things off like this and the people don't really notice, or they're not paying enough attention, or don't really care when it comes to the ballot box? Like, even if they were passing a bill that was saying that local congressman can come to your house and punch your kid in the face, still 90% of them are probably going to get reelected in 2018. I think this is a good test of like the reflexive nature of democracy. We'll see how much something like this, taking away people's health care directly, doing it in this boldly hypocritical manner, keeping single payer for themselves and screwing over the people. To what degree will that actually shift seats in the House? Because, even if they lose 20, 30, 40 seats, that's still only like a fifth or a sixth of their total seats. All these people, most of these people that voted for this bill in this bullshit manner are still going to get reelected, and that's the thing that sort of bums me out. But I guess it's just up to us to spread the word and campaign and be active.
Yeah, I would say this is totally going to come back to bite them in the ass. And I think the biggest challenge for Republicans here is that they didn't even repeal Obamacare. Like this is the thing here. The biggest lie about Trumpcare is that it repealed Obamacare, and that's how they planned that they would sell all of this like shit burger, as our friends at Pod Save America call this. They planned on selling it to their base by saying, we repealed Obamacare. But what they actually did was they basically, to get the Freedom Caucus on board, they allowed the states really to decide whether they were going to effectively repeal Obamacare or not. Because they gave the states the opportunity to allow themselves to allow insurance companies to charge unlimited amounts, to preclude people with pre-existing conditions from acquiring health insurance. So they actually just like kept Obamacare intact, slapped a new coat of paint on it, made it actually like weaker. So they weakened Obamacare, but kept the core intact, and they called it Trumpcare. And then all in the name of giving $1 trillion tax cut to the wealthiest 1%. So beyond the massive hypocrisy here, people are going to die and people are going to lose their health care, and they're going to be very, very angry when they realize it. If they wanted to really do this, they should have done it closer to the 2018 midterms. But actually now we have about nearly 2 years, and people are going to find out what's really in this bill ahead of that time. And many members of Congress on the Republican side are going to lose their seats.
Yeah, one thing I'm looking forward to is for the CBO score to come out, because at that point, let's recall that the last version of the bill, when the CBO score came out and said that I think it was 24 million people would be losing their healthcare coverage, there was a major backlash to that. That kind of got everybody going to the town halls and complaining to their congresspeople, and so I'm just wondering, will there be a similar backlash when the CBO score comes out for this, or will people just forget about it because it's already passed the House and it's no longer an issue? I'm sure the Republicans are just hoping people will forget about it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm really looking forward to seeing what the CBO score says and how it affects the Senate. But we actually have we have a late breaking announcement here, which is Tarek is currently being thrown in some sort of international detention unit. So I think he's gonna have to depart, unfortunately.
Yeah, guys. Unfortunately, Trump's America has extended to the UK here, and I'm gonna go. I'm gonna have to unfortunately be sent.
Do you have a quick clown of the week to lay up here?
Yeah, my clown of the week here is Kellyanne Conway, and it's related to Trumpcare here. So basically, Kellyanne Conway went on, I think it was Fox and Friends, and tried to blame the Democrats for denying health care to veterans, when actually what happened here is under Trumpcare, they classified PTSD as a pre-existing condition, which, as you know, is a major illness that many of our veterans suffer from as a result of a Republican-led illegal war against Iraq and the continuous war in Afghanistan. So effectively, what's happening here is Republicans are screwing over veterans, and Kellyanne Conway had the nerve to blame Democrats for doing that, and she's quickly pivoted and blamed the Obama administration for all of the troubles at the Veterans Administration. So my clown of the week here is your girl Kellyanne Conway. And there's nothing more I got to say about that.
Nice. That's a good one, dude. That's a good throwback. We haven't heard from Kellyanne Conway in a few weeks.
I know. I was trying to miss her.
Kellyanne Conjob. I think what happened is she probably had some botched plastic surgery there, and was hiding with like some of that that white cloth around her face, like Face Off or what was it?
Like Face Off.
He's coming back.
Throwback
as
to
John
Nick Cage,
Travolta.
John Travolta. Throwback. I'm dating myself there.
Yeah.
Great reference. Love it.
All right.
All right, guys.
Dude,
good luck, Tarek.
Well, I'll come to you next week with a live report from Australia, from a hospital after a kangaroo punches me in the face and I try to get healthcare. So
Yeah, dude. You got to take advantage of that Aussie healthcare.
Aussie healthcare. Okay, vive la France, guys. Nice job. All right.
Vive la
Talk to
France.
you.
All right.
All right. As sad as it is to see Tarek go, the show must go on. Am I right? There's another topic we wanted to discuss this week. Tim, you want to give us a little rundown of updates from James Comey?
Yeah, absolutely. So James Comey appeared before the Senate in a public hearing this week, and there were basically two topics that they asked him about. One was the current Russia investigation, and then the more interesting one actually was his decision to send a letter about Hillary's emails just 2 weeks before the 2016 election. And now that decision has become, people have been looking at that nonstop. 538 had an article saying that that the letter had enough of an effect on the polls that it could have cost Hillary the election. Hillary, in one of her first public appearances, blamed her election loss on Comey's letter. So clearly this is a hot button issue. And the interesting thing that Comey revealed is that the turning point for him that made him decide to release this letter was when Loretta Lynch and Bill Clinton met on the tarmac of some airport. That he said he felt really forced his hand because of all the public attention that was getting. I'm sure a lot of that public attention was coming from the Trump campaign. Obviously, they were pushing this issue as hard as they possibly could because it was their chance to win the election. But I guess the pressure got to him, and he felt he had to do something. But I totally did not buy his explanation, to be honest. Like, I don't think that was a good reason to actually what he did is he violated the normal protocol of the FBI by commenting publicly on an ongoing investigation, and he did it 2 weeks before the election.
Yeah, absolutely. And the idea that he was buying into this right-wing propaganda and that he felt the need to comment on it makes me, as Comey put it himself, mildly nauseous. So James Comey said that the idea that he might have his actions might have influenced the election made him, quote, mildly nauseous. And I'm actually, as we're revisiting this topic, I feel a little more than mildly nauseous, even thinking about either James Comey's actions or his thoughts in the process of it, because it doesn't seem, I don't know, reasonable to comment on the election and put your finger on the scale when really it's just a mild suspicion based on, this incident with Loretta Lynch and Bill Clinton on a tarmac that was not a big deal, and that it involved Anthony Weiner too. I saw a funny tweet actually that was, think about how if Anthony Weiner wasn't such a chronic masturbator, we might have Hillary Clinton as president if it wasn't for that. So all of this, it just makes me sick, even like thinking about all of that stuff and his motivations. I don't know.
Yeah.
I feel like, yeah.
I was very suspicious of Comey during the election, and the thing that really got me suspicious was when, well, not specifically of Comey, but I was suspicious of the FBI because Giuliani said on national TV he had contacts in the FBI who were giving him information about the Hillary email investigation, which, the Republicans love complaining about leaks. How about that for a leak? You have the FBI is talking to Rudy Giuliani, who's not even doesn't even work for the federal government at that point.
Yeah, unbelievable. And there were those reports that I think Politico had the report that the FBI was just I think they referred to it as Trumplandia. Apparently the FBI was just filled with people that were, on the Trump side of things during the election, and yeah, all this adds up to something like not great.
Yeah, and I was starting to like Comey okay after he announced the Russia investigation, right? When he because that was kind of a big turning point when he finally publicly acknowledged that there was a Russian investigation. It seemed like he was pretty forthcoming and trying to do the right thing at that time. But this hearing has totally changed my mind about him. It's caused me to change my mind about him because what he did 2 weeks before the election just made no sense, because he could have, all he needed to do was wait a couple hours or a day or however long it takes for his agents to go through those emails. But he decided, let me write the letter now, and we need to let everybody know that these emails exist, even though we have no idea what's in them, which was an incredibly bad decision. So at this point, I'd like to just mention, to formally nominate Jim Comey as my clown of the week. Clearly, he has lost any. I've lost any semblance of respect for him at this point after his performance in the Senate hearing this week. What do you think, Rahul?
Yeah, no, I agree. It's I think in contrast to our usual clowns of the week, Jim Comey's a guy that has an extraordinary kind of amount of power. He's not our ordinary clown of the week, but I agree. Like, once we started hearing about his motivations in his actions, and claiming, quite calmly that he feels mildly nauseous about the idea that he had an impact on the election. Meanwhile, those of us are out here vomiting every day at the consequences of those actions. So I think it's an appropriate clown of the week.
And really, there's no way he can redeem himself for me, because Trump is already in office. Like, no matter, and what I'm thinking about is like the Russian investigation. Like, could he, maybe he could really impress us in that investigation and turn it around. But it's too late. Trump's already in office. I really doubt the Russian investigation is going to get to the point of impeachment. So, it's too late in my mind.
Yeah, exactly. Whenever I think about impeachment as a kind of a wet dream, you have to realize that in the Senate it takes. So in the House you can file impeachment proceedings and it's a little bit easier, but in the Senate you need 2/3 of the Senate to vote to impeach a president out. So that's why Bill Clinton didn't get impeached, because the Republicans didn't have enough power, especially in the Senate where you need 2/3. I can't imagine a scenario where unless the Democrats actually get 67 senators, the idea that 10 plus Republicans would vote for anything, for any reason to impeach a Republican president seems like sounds like a fantasy.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, if they're willing to vote to take healthcare away from 24 million Americans while the people they're representing are at home are up in arms, they're willing to do anything to be loyal to Team Republicans.
Exactly.
And they've totally forgotten who they're working for, unfortunately.
Yep. So we're pretty much stuck with this administration, it seems, and I think appropriately, Jim Comey is our clown of the week, I would say. And actually, speaking of clown of the week, a little follow up from last week. A guy that I mentioned as my nominee for clown of the week is a good friend of the pod, Sebastian Gorka. So he was in the national security kind of apparatus of the White House, but word officially came out this week that he's being pushed out of the White House. He never even had a national security clearance, and he's going to be pushed into some other agency. perhaps, who knows, the Pentagon or something. But it's kind of an embarrassing end to this guy's short tenure at the White House. And one thing that was kind of amusing in, I think it was the New York Times that, or maybe the Washington Post, that reported about Gorka had very limited duties as it was in the White House. So what they said were, mainly what he was responsible for was speaking on TV about counterterrorism, as well as, quote, giving White House tours and peeling out in his Mustang. So I don't know exactly what that's supposed to entail. Like, in the White House parking lot, he was famous for peeling out in a Mustang.
That sounds pretty awesome to me, man. I don't know why they got rid of that guy. He sounds like what we all wanted Joe Biden to be.
That's true. Yeah. The Onion used to have bits about Joe Biden referring to him like washing his car shirtless, and it was like a Pontiac like Trans Am or something. Yeah. So maybe Sebastian Gorka is that cool guy that we wanted Joe Biden to be.
Yeah.
But actually, one thing that's kind of interesting in learning about Gorka's duties and actually how he even got in the White House to begin with, it illustrates it's another example of Trump just watches so much Fox News. Like, basically, Gorka would appear on Fox News to talk about counterterrorism, even though he's not like academically really accredited in the national security circles. No one really respects him. He's a goddamn openly racist individual with ties to far right, the kind of Nazi sympathizers in Hungary. Like, his family has connections to it. But Trump hired him basically because when Trump's in his bathrobe watching Fox News, he would see this guy on TV and think like, he's smart, I should hire him. And then it turned out like that was a mistake. No one respects him.
Yeah, I mean, this administration just has the most unhealthy relationship with the media company that I've ever seen in American politics. We're used to seeing this from authoritarian dictatorships abroad and in Russia with Putin's connection to RT, and there's similar media outlets for a lot of the Middle Eastern countries where there's a state-run media company, and Fox News right now I think is the closest we've ever gotten to a state-run media company, because Trump basically he has a lot of influence on them, and they have a lot of influence on him. There's definitely a lot of back and forth going on there.
Yeah, exactly. As has been noted in the past, Trump is basically like a racist grandpa who sits in front of his TV all day. So, many have pointed this out before, but like the easiest way to influence Trump, if you're a foreign government or something, is just put your person on Fox News. Get like a mole, a mole to like just be a talking head on Fox News, and then you can directly influence Trump. Gorka is an example of this, but if you just get someone on Fox and Friends, that's boom, you can shift national policy like that, it seems.
Which is crazy, right? Like, I'm trying to understand why Trump trusts the people on TV over his own advisors, or like the people in his cabinet. Like a good example is like the CIA or sorry, the FBI telling him that Russia was responsible for the hacks in the election. And he says, no, that's not true. And he chooses to believe what he's reading in the media instead of what his own advisors are telling him. So it just doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, exactly. And, it's really unfortunate. And what we're seeing as the push and pull a little bit is, his advisor or some of his advisors and probably the professionals that are in the departments are the ones trying to push back and be like, no, racist grandpa, don't let Sebastian Gorka do anything. And Trump is probably, he's basically a consumer of the right-wing media, and he's making these uninformed kind of choices. But there are these professionals that are sometimes pushing back. So, I think Gorka getting pushed out is probably not Trump's decision. It's people that are in those departments being like, this guy doesn't know what he's doing. Same thing with like Bannon being pushed out of the National Security Council. So there's a little push and pull here that hopefully restricts the kind of dumbest impulses of Trump long term, but in the short term, we're going to see probably a lot more of them.
Absolutely. So let's move on to an interesting occurrence in the liberal media, in the world of liberal media. Colbert said a joke on in his monologue that a lot of people thought was excessively vulgar. He said, "What do you say? Trump's the best thing. Trump's mouth is good for one thing, being Putin's cock holster." Is that right?
Yeah, I think that was the phrase. Yeah. Stephen Colbert in his monologue, I think on Monday, went through like a barrage of Trump insults because Trump had given this interview with CBS's John Dickerson, and was basically behaved like a jerk towards Dickerson. So Colbert, in this kind of like outraged moment, was trying to defend his CBS colleague and made a series of insults, one of which was that Trump's mouth is only good for one thing, being Putin's cock holster, which is quite a phrase.
So I gotta say, what I watched that before this whole controversy started, right? And I remember thinking to myself, oh wow, that was kind of vulgar. And like it was a little bit more vulgar than I'm used to from Colbert. And I remember like making a mental note of that. And then sure enough, turns out it ended up being front page news eventually. So the big news is that he's being investigated by the FCC right now.
Right. Yeah. So, there are kind of two elements, I think, of the outrage that occurred. Yeah. The one thing is he's currently being investigated by the FCC for an obscenity charge, which is a very controversial topic, in the history of kind of broadcasting. Back in the 70s, I think the Supreme Court ruled on obscenity charges, kind of in the context of radio or TV. And, there's a pretty firm, I think, passionate, pro-free speech argument here. I kind of doubt Colbert will really get into much trouble for that. But, on the right, they want to discipline Colbert because he's, saying vulgar things about the president, and you shouldn't do that because Trump's a snowflake. And then on the left, what was interesting was that comment came off as homophobic, and I can understand where that viewpoint comes from. Kind of demeaning the idea of a man putting another man's cock in his mouth is, I guess, if you're using that as an insult, then it's demeaning that act, and it's whatever. People can do whatever they want in their bedroom, in their private lives. For the LGBT community can it's a thing. You don't want to demean an entire group of people, but at the same time, for me it comes off as a little oversensitive. Like, all right, Colbert he's ripping on Trump, so let's not worry about the words Colbert is using too much when the intended target is a total homophobic asshole who's already, hurting LGBT rights more broadly.
Right. And I want to add that I don't even buy the homophobic interpretation of that joke, because what he's insulting is the relationship between Trump and Putin, not the fact that relationship is homosexual.
Right. But I think the fact that by painting that very vivid visual and alluding to that being an insult, is, I think that's kind of like, I can see the perspective of like, why would you perceive that as homophobic? It's because the core of the insult is that Trump engages in these actions to Putin or something.
Right.
I mean, like I'm on your side here. I don't think it's a big deal, but I get why, if you're, passionate about about equality for LGBT folks, you don't want people using that as like a shortcut to say like, Trump's a faggot basically, or something. Like that's not.
Certainly.
That's not a good thing to say.
Yeah, I'm sure. There's been a long history of.
Also, I apologize for using that word. That was for effect. That
right.
There's a slippery slope between saying that homosexual acts are bad, or that it's a way to insult Trump, and then generalizing to all of those actions are bad, or what have you.
Right. And there's a long history of people making jokes about gay people, and obviously the community, I'm sure, is very sensitive to those things, and cautious when somebody goes in that direction. So that makes sense. But the funny thing is, this is just going to end up making Colbert even more popular and more famous right now. Like, this is basically the FCC has given Colbert like the official anti-Trump comedian stamp, basically stamp of approval, pretty much. Like, right now he is like the face of the resistance in terms of comedians, I would say, because he's the only one who the FCC is thinking about going after.
Exactly, it makes him look like a rebel. And as has been reported, Colbert's ratings have been doing great since the election, since the inauguration, and I think actually this week he hit some like ratings high. So this is kind of this controversy is almost a blessing in a way. But I think we do agree. We agree that it's an interesting example of there's outrage kind of on both sides a little bit, but the net effect is either to like censor free speech, and it's also giving a little bump to Colbert's like notoriety and what have you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will say, I'm slightly disappointed that it wasn't a better joke. Like this wasn't like one of Colbert's best jokes. When I heard it, I was like, oh, that's kind of weird. Like, it's like a weird visual, and like it's not a common way of phrasing that. I guess that's why it's so memorable, but I don't know.
Yeah. yeah, exactly. But that's why Colbert is great. He can he's not afraid to go there.
Exactly.
So actually, I think you and I both agree. One thing we want to start introducing a little bit, we'll do this maybe week to week or once every now and then, is introduce a hero of the week in addition to our clown. So I think based on our discussion here, Stephen Colbert, for being a free speech crusader and for just endlessly ripping on Trump, I think he's our hero of the week this week.
I concur. I think he's as good of a hero as I've seen this week. So yeah, I'm just thrilled that he's on top now of the late night battle, because he's always been my favorite, and I support the fact that he's willing to say what he feels, even if it's not politically correct. Like the right is always talking about, oh, everybody's too PC, but the left needs to be able to be un-PC too, and he's willing to go there. So let's go.
Yeah,
Stephen
exactly.
Colbert.
Yeah, I agree. And actually, that also reminds me. I mean, one thing that I don't think we had the time to go into in full depth on the subject of late night comedians. Did you see Jimmy Kimmel's moving monologue about healthcare and his newborn son?
Oh yeah, I totally forgot that there was like a political slant to that. So that totally fits in with the Trumpcare discussion.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, just as a quick recap, I think everyone should just go out and watch this clip. Jimmy Kimmel had a son recently who had heart issues and required open heart surgery, and it was quite a harrowing ordeal that he goes into in a very moving and emotional manner on his show. And towards the end, Jimmy Kimmel, who's not a particularly political comedian, not as much as Colbert for sure, he kind of just made a very forthright, honest, authentic plea for healthcare for all, saying that when you go through something like this, it shouldn't matter how much money you make. You should be able to get care for your kid. It shouldn't matter if you're a late night talk show host or just an ordinary everyday American. So yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was great, and it was particularly relevant because his son now has a pre-existing condition, right? So his son's going to be going through his life if Trumpcare stays in place, his son will have to go through his life and pay more for health insurance than everybody else for his whole life, which is not fair. So yeah, and I think it was like a really powerful statement. I think it resonated with a lot of people, and let's hope it changed some minds. And it's just sad that that's this terrible zombie Trumpcare bill passed the House this week. Also, despite Jimmy Kimmel's efforts, but hopefully it doesn't pass the Senate.
Yeah, man, we can only hope. So, I think that's all the time we have for this week's episode. As usual, we'll be back next week, and hopefully we'll have a live special report from Tarek straight from the outback of Australia. Or, at least an Outback Steakhouse.
If he goes to Outback Steakhouse, he better bring me a bloomin' onion.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, dude.
All right, take care.